One of the most obvious aesthetic differences specific to the Victorian era is its fashion, specifically women's fashion. Victorian clothing was characterized by large, puffed sleeves, high, stiff collars, cinched waist held in by corsets lined with either bone or rope, and floor-length gowns held up by stiffened petticoats called crinolines and bustles. Toward the end of the era, however, a movement that began with the Victorian New Woman revolutionized clothing to accommodate comfort and mobility for all, even those not working. Prior to the Revolution, women's clothes not only confined them physically, but also stunted their societal perception as well. Stuck at home, only leaving to attend the occasional party or gathering, women were assumed to be uninterested in most things aside from fashion and the home. This assumption further limited their exposure to outside opportunities, as even newspapers then put little effort into creating a comprehensive women's section. Evelyn Phillips, in an article in the New Review from 1895, wrote, "The ladies' page is an almost inevitable feature. The weeklies think it incumbent on them to satisfy the feminine appetite with a little babble about clothes and knickknacks. We all know these effusions, the illustrations of a blouse and a bonnet, the second-rate society tone, the flippant frivolity. They preach the time-honored gospel that a woman, if she be truly charming, may be as vain and as ignorant as she will, providing she be pretty and well-dressed. It is an article of faith with the average editor that the average woman cares only for dress. To this belief he clings." When the New Woman entered the scene, her ideas of fashion were not readily accepted, and though it was something as simple-minded as clothing, each change caused large disruptive waves. For example, when the New Woman donned bloomers, loose trousers gathered at the ankles, similar to those worn by women of the Middle East and Central Asia, she was met with ridicule and rude critique. Fun, Punch magazine, and the Windsor magazine were just a few who participated in meeting bloomers with satire. An excerpt from a poem titled Bloomers in the Home, published in Fun in 1898, reads, "Her daring overwhelmed him with awe when she brought out her garments to don them, but soon with a strident contemptuous guffaw he killed all the bloom that was on them. And though it was vain to persuade, from ridicule he did not spare him, and what's the result? Not a matron or maid has courage sufficient to wear him. And what shall the ladies do now? Retire disappointedly sighing? Ah, no, in the home they have taken a vow, the bloomers once more to be trying. Alas, we are fain to confess, young Tommy will trouble them later, for when he casts eyes on this whimsical dress, he will laugh just as loud as his pater." The Windsor magazine, a monthly that boasted being for both men and women, fell in suit with Fun in their foreword in January of 1895, writing, "To say that the New Woman is a butterfly would be to do some injustice to a meritorious insect, for the New Woman is apt to be unlovely, and to make her brief sojourn amongst us hideous with discordant cries. The only service she renders to man is to provide him with cynical entertainment, while she fondly imagines that his natural supremacy is seriously in question." Even in critique, the greatest disparagement given by magazines lay in condemning the lady's physical appearance. Despite a widespread displeasure with the radical change that the New Woman specifically brought to fashion, ladies continued to make waves without a second thought. Two American women, Dr. Mary Walker and Mrs. Elliot, captured international attention when they did not just tone down their fashion, nor simply don bloomers, but wore complete male attire for everyday activities. Dr. Walker specifically was often seen in straight trousers, not the billowy skirt-like bloomers, with a long jacket and a top hat. She wore her hair short from an early age, and her clothing became more masculine as the years went on. Though there is some debate over who began the trend of wearing male clothing, not in an attempt to disguise themselves as women had done before, but rather for purely practical purposes, the role they played in women's fashion was integral. For once the unthinkable was done, a woman wearing a suit, all other small changes seemed less radical, less mind-boggling, and less frightening to the general populace. Some even began to view the shift in female attire as a sign of a positive shift in humanity's direction. Perhaps the most spectacular vehicle for widespread acceptance of this fashion evolution was the creation of the bicycle and the subsequent creation of clothes suitable to wear while riding. Unlike equestrianism, which a woman would accomplish in a ladylike manner by riding side saddle, the bike posed a problem when paired with traditional dress. Because of this, women's skirts were shortened, material was lessened, and general mobility was increased. Of course, her ready adoption of the bicycle came hand in hand with a flood of new criticisms. Punch magazine continued to oppose the new woman's empowerment through fashion. The overwhelming fear evident in this comic speaks to the societal panic that women would bring their sporting attire into the home. Fear of the masculinization of women and the concurrent feminization of men was evident in the publications of many. Yet the comics of the disapproving mattered less and less as unconstricting clothing leaked from woman to woman, from sport to sport, until journals and newspapers no longer had women's segments filled with nothing but home remedies and the best hats for a Sunday afternoon. The new woman's challenge of the Victorian-era fashion opened doors not only to increased mobility or activity participation, but to an elevated position within the mind of society. With each activity conquered, with each realm entered, women proved themselves to be more competent, intelligent, and willing to compete for a higher goal than best dressed at a party. The new woman's radical fashion transformation allowed women to take the first steps into society and to be seen as a creature that had the potential to one day be viewed as man's equal. An anonymous contributor to the Speaker, the Liberal Review, wrote, "It is not reform, this change. It is a revolution. And it is a revolution by which we may well hope and believe that the generations to come, above all the generation of which these maidens of today will be the mothers, must benefit enormously."